welcome or welcome back to A Game of Fangs and Thrones. My name's Hannah and this is my September reading wrap up. Now in September, from when I last filmed, when I filmed August reading wrap up to today, the 4th of October, I have read a total of 17 books, 1 DNF, and then 16 physical books of varying genres, lengths, age range and ratings. Majority are 4 stars, but we do have, I have my notes down, I have my bullet journal down here with all my notes. We have, the majority are 4 stars, but we do have 3 5 stars and 2 3 stars. So I have my pile of books just here and we are just going to get right into it, but if you do want to grab a snack or a drink, I do recommend it. I actually have my half bottle of Pepsi Max just here, and let's go. I am sorry about if you can see a glare on my glasses. I can't be bothered to put my contact lenses in. So the first book was A Vow So Bold and Deadly by Bridget Camera, the third and final book in the Cursebreaker series, which started with a curse, a heart so fierce and broken. And is it a heart so fierce and broken, or is it a curse? Either way, it's the Beauty and the Beast retelling. Unfortunately, that is my DNF for the month. I didn't enjoy the third book. I just couldn't get into it. It just dragged. I just didn't care. So that went to the DNF pile. It's actually in the unhaul video. So you've probably seen that by now. It has been up for a while. Then the next book I read was the Duke and I, the first book in the Bridgerton series by Julia Quinn. And I gave this 4 stars. I read so much I have to write mini reviews. Let's see what I said about that one. I mean, I've got vlogs for all of, I pretty much have a vlog for it all. The Duke and I. So on the core pile system by G at Book Roast, this got a 6 for characters. They were fine. I didn't really think any of them were of any substance. Atmosphere 8. I just like Regency romances. They have a certain atmosphere. Writing 8. I did enjoy the writing. Plot 6. We kind of knew where this was going to end up, but I suppose it's romance at its charm. Intrigue 8. I wanted to find out who Lady Whistledown was, to be honest. Logic 8, some things, and enjoyment 10. I absolutely loved it. So, you know, objectively speaking, probably wasn't the greatest thing ever written, but we did have a heroine who knew what she wanted / what, and was able to speak her mind, which for a Regency time, that was quite not the done thing. I do appreciate Simon. I do adore Simon and his anger. It is a little bit over the top at times, but you know, you can understand it. And his flaw was he has a stutter, which, okay, not really a flaw, but you know, romantic leads always have to have a flaw because, you know, they can't be too perfect because then they are unattainable. So there is a sex scene in this. It's a little bit icky. It's just, it doesn't read very well, and it doesn't play across very well on screen either. I don't think that part aged very well. I probably am going to look at getting the next books in the series, even if they are problematic, because enjoying problematic romance does not mean you are problematic yourself. And there are, and when was this one written? I think that plays a part in it. So it was first published in 2000, so we will bear that in mind. The next book I read Library by Matt Haig. I gave this 4 stars. Again, it was enjoyable. It had a really nice message. It got 8, 9. It got an 8 for character, 9 for atmosphere because it's a library. Writing, intrigue, logic and enjoyment 10. Plot 5. You kind of figured what was going to happen very early on. But saying that I did enjoy it, it was quite uplifting, but because of the subject matter, could be potentially triggering for a lot of people. We have death of a pet, suicide ideology, suicide attempt. I didn't love it, but I did enjoy it. Which, to be honest, you can't love everything you read, and that's fine. So the next one was This Junker, Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. How on earth did I read this quicker than that non-fiction that we'll get to in a minute? Anyway, so this got 8, a couple of 8s, a 9, a 10 for enjoyment, and a 6 for writing. I did find I love Cove. He's so cool. He's so arrogant as a child. But I did enjoy it. I am going to be picking up the sequel at some point because you know I have my readathon sequelathon, and I have a bad habit, I think we all do, of starting series and not finishing them. So keep your eyes out. I'm hoping that sequelathon will be a yearly thing, at least maybe twice yearly, depending on how many series I've started and needed to finish. But yeah, 4 stars for The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. If you want a synopsis, if you want any more detail about what these books are about in the wrap-ups, let me know, but a lot of the time I do cover it in TBR and the vlogs, so I'm hoping that you'll have at least seen one of those because I post twice a week anyway. But yeah, always open for feedback and constructive criticism. So yeah, back on track. I think this is more of a classic fantasy, but it has a really nice conversational tone, which I do like reading because it means that there are multiple storylines going on, and it's nice to see how they interact. We have Sarah J. Maas's House of Earth and Blood, which is the first book in the Crescent City series. The second book has been announced, and the cover released, and it's gorgeous. But this one, 9, had a 9, a couple of 8s, a 7 and a 10 for enjoyment. Releasing that at a 4-star on Copile. I really enjoyed this one, but I couldn't tell you why I didn't love it. I expected it to because I do enjoy Sarah J. Maas's writing. Maybe it's because she has a type with her male leads, and you know, once you've read a couple of the books, you know the type of male that the lead is going to go to. But she is still an autobiography for me anyway. But what got me for this one was the relationship between Hunt and Bryce. It did feel real. They argued, they didn't want to be in each other's company, and then it grew from that to reluctant allies, to friends, to finally having that kiss. She made us wait so long for that kiss, and yeah, worth it. I love how the magic and technology interact in this one, so that was a nice little twist. And before I say anything, we all know that this book was 5 stars because of one big plot point: the dragon. So this is Fire with Fire by Destiny Soraya. Soraya? I'm not sure how to say your surname. I'm sorry if you're watching this. For a debut, this was brilliant. It is told between different perspectives of the sisters, and they had a distinct voice, which was it didn't interrupt the flow of the story too much, but you were able to tell if it was Eden you were following or Danny, and I loved it. But to be honest, the big draw for this book for me was the dragon, and he was so snarky. I loved him. I love that dragon. And I think I hope that this is I think this is duology, because I mean it can't end the way it ended. It can't end that way. So I got 5 stars for, I think it's a debut, but it was brilliant. I did think the villain needed a bit of work, but that's if you've seen any of these, you'll know that I need my villain to be fleshed out for me to enjoy it. I need to understand the villain. I need maybe not empathise or sympathise too much, but just understand where they're coming from, or at least have a bit more presence of the villain. So we have Aurora Rising by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. This one I liked because this one was different. The villain, the antagonist, wasn't present, but for this one it worked because this one needed a lot more world building. It's a sci-fi. It got 10s across the board. The only thing I didn't like, the writing got a 9, and that's because some of the POVs tended to blur. At some point I wasn't entirely sure who I was following. I have my vlog processing in the background here, and I just want to make sure that everything's okay for that one. But yeah, I do really enjoy this, even if I did at times have to double check whose point of view I was reading from, and I am really intrigued to see where this goes next. But I should have known Jay Kristoff does not do happy endings, so there is a character death, and it was a favourite. It was one of my favourites of the squad. But the other favourite, I mean, can I tell you my favourite? No, because I don't want to spoil anything, but my other favourite, she's pretty much safe because of the title. I mean, I love Ori. That's all I'm going to say. I love Ori, but, you know, the books are called Aurora Rising, Aurora Burning, and then Aurora's End. And the main character, and my character, one of my favourite characters is Aurora, or Ori. So, you know, she's safe. I hope. She's safe at least until the 3rd book, so that's good. Then I have 6 Crimson Crayons by Elizabeth Lim, another one with a dragon character. This dragon was different. He was older, and he could change his form from a dragon to human, and I loved it again, not just because of the dragon this time, but that got 5 stars. It is a very slow story. It's beautifully told. It's rich. It's just so brilliantly done. But it is slow, but slow in the way that you want to savour it, rather than slow in the way of, oh, is it over yet? At least for me, anyway. And I think, was it Becca in the books that says Asian fantasy or Asian inspired fantasy did tend to be slow, and I found that with the Asian directed movies, or with an Asian style story, they do tend to just flow like water. But that got 5 stars, and I loved the villainous character in this. I say villainous, she's portrayed that way, but things aren't always as they seem. I am rushing through these, and I am sorry, but I just want this video out so I can just chill, because I'm an idiot and this book doesn't take itself too seriously. You know, it's one of those ones. I want to read Crush to see how I feel about that one. And then we have Mexican Gothic, and this book put me off mushrooms for a couple of days, and I love mushrooms, but it put me off for a while. I say a while, a couple of days. But it got 4 stars. This was an example of I need more backstory on villains. I mean, it's beautifully written, it was creepy, it was atmospheric, it did keep me guessing, and it did make sense. It's just, I didn't get the villain. I didn't understand. Maybe I'm not clever enough for these villains. I didn't like that one as much, but I am going to see if one of her other books is more, maybe, because, you know, I'm not really a horror scary book kind of gal. I think Gods of Jade and Shadow might be more my thing, because that's more fantasy based. Is that Mexican folklore or Aztec? But that's the one I want to try before I make a decision on Marino Garcia. Then I read Ninth House by Lee Bardugo. 4 stars. Enjoyed it, didn't love it. Just some little things just didn't meet the hype for me, and I think the hyped books, I'm going off topic here, on a little bit of a tangent, but hyped books and I don't always get along. Sometimes I love them and agree with the hype, but other times I don't, and sometimes I build it up too much, especially if it's because I have read the Grishaverse, the first 3 books in the Grishaverse, and listened to the Six of Crows duology by Lee Bardugo, and I did enjoy those. So I think this one, I was thinking it would be more that than what it actually was, but I did enjoy it, and there were some, I just like Lee Bardugo's writing, but in this one I didn't love it. Alex and Darlington felt like they were the only ones really fleshed out, but I'm hoping that this is a series and we get more backstory on some of the characters. I mean, it can't really end like that. It was a major cliffhanger. Yeah, so I've wrote on my little note here, I don't read books like this very often, so I can't tell you if it's a May thing or a book thing, and I think that still stands for that. And then we have a 5-star, and that is Legendborn by Tracy Dion. This got 10s across the board except for Atmosphere and Logic. Atmosphere was a 9, Logic was a 9.5, and this was, I don't want to tell you the plot twist, but it's very well done, and it deals with legacy and how you deal with, well, in my opinion, it deals with legacy, how a certain legacy is interpreted, how that makes you see yourself, and also how it makes others see you, and that in turn how others treat you, how you treat others, how you feel about yourself, that kind of thing. Yeah, I've wrote that's a bit of a spoiler, but I can't tell you what I wrote, but I think it sums this up perfectly. But anyway, it's a story of growing up, guilt, grief and family. Book that deals with how legacies, good or bad, affect everyone around the inheritor and the people around them. I think that makes sense. I did it at the time. But the friendship in this, Alice and Brie, they go through a lot, and it deals with, and that in itself, how those two people are treated, those 2 girls are treated by people in charge and police, because I can't remember exactly, but Alice is Chinese American, I think, and Brie, our main character, is a Black American. They are both 16, going on this pre-college tour, and see how Bree has a shell around her because obviously of her mother's death, and then we see through her how being black in a position in, I think it's the south, I think it's is it Texas? I'm not sure, but I know it's the south. They have issues with authority, which understandable, especially as you learn about the secret society, the Merlins, and Bree's own familial history and her own particular brand of magic and where that comes from. I had to check that. No spoiler. I think this second book is going to take a while to come out because obviously the first book was so good. So Miss Dion has her work cut out with the second book. That's all I'm going to say. And we have Catwoman, Soul Stealer by Sarah J. Maas. This got 4-star, and unlike the other two, the Batman book and the Superman book, I think I'm going to keep this one. I think I'll reread this one because it's girl power and it has Harley Quinn, who is my favourite anti-villain, anti-hero of the DC universe. So she's a favourite, I'm not gonna lie. If they decide to write a Harley Quinn book, sign me up, please. I think with this one more than the other two as well, there is a bit more of a backstory with the side characters, because in this one we see Selena, who is obviously Catwoman, and she meets Poison Ivy and Harley, and Poison Ivy and Harley have an on-again, off-again relationship, which is hinted at because obviously Harley has that, I don't want to say vibe, I think that's wrong, but I think it's almost canon now that Poison Ivy and Harley are at least have a female-female relationship. I don't want to, because I think Harley is bi, but I can't say for definite because obviously I tend to be more Marvel. But I love this one. It does have a Batman-esque story to it, even though Batman isn't there, and it does tie in with the Batman universe, I think, because there are characters that are mentioned in the Christopher Nolan trilogy that are mentioned in that book, so it ties in very loosely with that continuity. But comic book continuity, is that a thing? But I'm just reading. Oh, someone just walked around my grave. Ooh. So yeah, Selena is a diamond in the rough, and I love her. Harley is brilliant in this. I like Harley's ending. I like Poison Ivy's ending. I just like the ending of that one because it is a story of female empowerment, females coming together, dealing with trauma, whether it's abuse. Triggers for this one are quite intense. Parental abuse, drug abuse, physical abuse maybe, I can't quite remember. And then there is obviously the Joker Harley relationship, which we all know is toxic. Then I have Associates by Amanda Foodie. This got 4 stars. This one actually got the highest score for logic. It got a 10 for logic. I can't fault the logic, it just works. It got a 7 for atmosphere, 8s, 9s for everything else, because I think the atmosphere was just okay. I think that was a me thing rather than a book thing. I enjoyed this. Pacing of the book was on point, and there wasn't that lag that, because you know how on the middle of the book you get more character development than plot development, is usually when I start to struggle with books, but with this one that didn't happen, I don't think. It wasn't the lag that meant I felt bored, but I still felt like I got to know the main players, and the main mystery was nicely wrapped up, but with enough threads leading to a bigger, newer mystery that maybe tied to the city of New Rains, this world as a whole, which I did enjoy. It had one of my favourite tropes, and it was done well, because when this trope did have a habit of maybe being a little bit overused, a little bit cliche, but in some books, this one, Prison Healer was a good one, the Throne of Glass series, it was done very well, in my opinion at least. I'm sure people have different opinions about tropes, but for me, in those I can't tell you because it's a major spoiler plot, it's a spoiler trope. But anywho, moving on to a 3-star, which is definitely a me thing rather than a book thing, and that is Caught in the Revolution by Helena Rappaport. I always feel funny using the Corpal system for non-fiction because this is real life. These aren't characters in a book. Don't finish that sentence, Anna. They are characters in the book, but they are real people, so you can't really rate on character or plot because this has happened. This is a recount. This is a report. But I gave this a 3-star, and it is honestly a me thing rather than a book thing. It wasn't a topic I was interested enough in, I don't think, because this deals with the Russian Revolution of Petrograd, which is now St. Petersburg, in 1917, and I like the mystery of the Romanov family. I'm not gonna lie. But for me, it focused, and maybe this is again me not reading the synopsis properly, but for me I thought it would deal with a little bit more with that side of things, but it is good because it follows the journalists of that time, the key players of the time told through the journalists that were able to grab enough information and photos to let the outside world know what was happening. So in that regards, it was well done. I struggled with it. I'm giving it a 3 because it was good. It's just not my thing, I don't think. And then we move on to another 3-star, which is The Midnight Queen by Sylvia Hunter. This was okay. I mean, I forgot most of what happened, but I remember enjoying it at the time, and for me that's good enough. I am going to continue on with the trilogy, but I couldn't tell you what was happening without, I don't even think I can tell you with spoilers what was going on, but I did like the characters enough. It was just okay. The logic was a little bit but you know, it is what it is. You can't like everything, and that's okay. So we have the last book of the month, which I finished like literally 2 days before filming this, is The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman, and this got 4 stars. I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought it would. It's a little bit like a British Murder, She Wrote. It has a Midsummer Murder vibe to it because it's set in a small village. I just really enjoyed it. I think for me what sold it on, I could stay there. I think for me what sold it more was the characters. I was interested to find out who the murderer was and what was going on and why it was all connected, but for me it was the characters that sold this one. I just wanted to spend time with them. Elizabeth is formidable. Abraham was smart. He wanted everybody to know. He didn't want to feel that he was a nuisance. Ron was a bit of a loving, and Joyce was the grandma character, I would say, with a tendency to spike her homemade cakes with vodka. But you know, they were all so loving. You could tell that they cared for one another, and there was no romance in that side of things. But they matchmake. There's this policewoman who helps, you know, community crime, make sure the older generation are safe, you know, giving them talks about knife crime, making sure they don't fall for scams, that kind of thing. And they set her up with her boss, or at least they tried to. And that was, the plot was there, but I wasn't really I was interested, but what told me was spending time with these old OAPs. So I got 4 stars. I didn't love it. There were a few things that just didn't marry up as well as I thought it would, but it was brilliant. I think maybe if the reveal was a little bit bigger, I mean, that might be me again, because, you know, I finished it on a morning after some heavy drinking. I am 27, which, you know, I don't always look it, but I am legal to drink. So I love the Englishness of that. It was just so funny, and it was English humour. There was a line where it said it was Waitrose lamb, but little rice. That tells you more about that book than I think anything else would. And with that, I'm wrapping up this video. I've probably rambled on far too much, but I am tired, and when I'm tired I ramble. If you've seen the vlogs, you'll know that. But I'm wrapping up this video, I'm cutting myself off, and if you liked it, give it a like and hit that subscribe button if you want to see me, if you want to see this and talk about these.